Good evening and welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in Guyana over the past week or so. And as is the norm, we always have a packed agenda of issues to discuss. I want to welcome all of our viewers who are joining us on television from region number 5, West Coast Berbice. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. To our viewers who are joining us on television across the Berbice River, along the coast of the Berbice River, New Amsterdam, Kanji, along the Quarantine Coast, and all the way to Siparuta and Oriala. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. To our listeners and viewers who are joining us from Freedom Radio, on Freedom Radio from Georgetown, welcome. And last but not least, to the thousands of you who are joining us on Facebook Live across Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, Europe, and I saw Afghanistan again is in the house. Asia, New Zealand, Australia, welcome to another program of Issues in the News. Press the share button on your phone. Share this program on your iPad, on your computer, or whatever device you are looking at it on, so that all your friends and your followers can join us in tonight's discussion. Leslie Mogul, Rudy Jaigobin, Horace Sankar, Silis Samwells, Francis Kunji, Jasodra Budram, good evening and welcome to another program of Issues in the News. I want to begin by saying Ramadan Mubarak to all of Guyana, but more particularly our Muslim brothers and sisters who are observing this holy month and who are fasting during this holy month. We salute you during this very auspicious period of the Islamic calendar. I also want to say greetings to my Christian brothers. Tomorrow would be Ash Wednesday, and it would mark the beginning of Lenten. So I want to recognize that our Christian community is going into a period that is of significance on their religious calendar. And that's the point I like to make about Guyana. We celebrated Mahashivratri last week, earlier this week. Last week we celebrated Mashramani, an Amerindian national festival. Then we celebrated Mahashivratri. We are observing the month of Ramadan. And in the month of Ramadan, we are moving into the Lenten period. Then we will move into Easter. And then I believe Pagua is next week or week after next. So you have all these important religious events that are taking place one after another, and we are able to celebrate them all, to observe them all in our multicultural environment. And our society permits that. We have religious tolerance, we have religious freedoms. As I said at another forum, our Constitution, our most supreme law, offers the greatest of protection to our cultural diversity and our religious diversity. And each of us is protected as we celebrate our different religious rituals, practices, ceremonies, and festivals. And we do so seamlessly. And we do so while in other parts of the world people are being slaughtered simply for the faith that they are worshipping in. People are dying simply because of their religion. People are being shot. People are being killed violently simply because of religion. And that is why I say that we must not take these religious freedoms that we celebrate here, that we enjoy here, that is part and parcel of our everyday life for granted. They were won by great sacrifices, and we must be prepared to expend great energy and be prepared to make great sacrifices in protecting them as well. And that is why I always emphasize that we have a duty to stamp out those who want to preach religious differences, who want to preach racial divide in this country, who want to excite ethnic hostilities, who want to excite racial hostilities, who want to sow the seed of discord and division on the basis of race and on the basis of ethnicity and politics and also on the basis of religion. Those people have no place in modern Guyana, and we must not entertain them. They must be rejected. They are enemies of the people. They are enemies of Guyana. So we have completed the distribution of over 500,000 checks in the cash grant 100,000 drive across the country. Over 500,000 checks have already been distributed. We have loosely about 100,000 checks more to be distributed. Yes, there were problems, but we are completing the exercise. An exercise of this magnitude, an exercise that is of this unprecedented nature, would inevitably have encountered difficulties. And did we encounter difficulties? Yes, we did. And we are not ashamed to accept the difficulties that we encountered. But compare those difficulties with the successes, and I would conclude respectfully that the initiative on the whole was an overwhelming success. Because for every one transaction that had some difficulty, 200 succeeded. You hear me? To every one transaction that had some difficulty, 200 were conducted smoothly. But you had the naysayers, you had the opposition elements who can't objectively recognize the goodness of an initiative and who cannot praise the government for anything. And of course they recognize the benefits of this initiative to the government, and in their calculating minds, they are taking into account the political benefits which they are surmising will accrue to the government through to this initiative. And to militate against that, obviously, they have launched this scathing campaign of magnifying the few negatives so as to drown out the success, the overall success of the program. But they have failed abysmally. They have failed abysmally. And by and large, the entire initiative, as I said, is a resounding success. I am told that there still some issue concerning persons who may have registered for this cash grant but died before the checks were ready. What is the position with those checks? Well, I have said over and over again that we amended the Deceased Persons Estate Administration Act last year on the 25th of November 2024. We amended the Deceased Persons Estate Administration Act, whereby we permitted and authorized any person, organization, entity, bank, company, or government who has money for any deceased person to pay that money to a duly authorized relative of the deceased, up to $750,000. And what you have to do is to show the evidence of the death of the deceased. So the death certificate should be produced. And the person who is seeking to obtain the money must be either the spouse of the deceased, the surviving spouse, or a child of the deceased. To establish your relationship as a child, you can produce the birth certificate where the deceased would be stated as your mother or father. If you are asserting yourself to be a spouse, then a marriage certificate ought to suffice. If you are in a common law, if you were in a common law union with the deceased, then in our law we recognize common law marriages. So bring forth anyone who can support your contention that you are in a common law union with the deceased. But the deceased must be single. So if you were the married wife would have precedent over the common law wife, if they have two wives. But those complications have not arisen. So, simply put, the wife or the husband or the children of the deceased person can present him or herself and uplift the check at the place of distribution. At the place of distribution. They would have to produce evidence of the death and evidence of the relationship that they are alleging with the deceased person. It's as simple as that. Many persons have also asked the question, what happens when there is some technical glitch and the check is not available at the distribution point, or there is an error on the check? Well, the check will go back to finance, the Ministry of Finance, and it will come back to you. You will get an opportunity to receive that check, either at the distribution center or at some point that will be announced. And let me clear another issue. Some crazed person on the social media was spreading the misleading information that the checks are valid for 3 days. I hope that you have realized that that is foolishness. Checks ordinarily are valid for 6 months. But this is a government of Guyana check, and it is valid as long as the government of Guyana says it is valid. Meaning beyond the 6 months and further if the government says that it is valid beyond. So you don't have to worry about the check being invalid, because there are persons out there who wish to deliberately mislead you because they are anti-government. So they are spreading this kind of wicked propaganda to cause confusion and mayhem among the people of this country. So every one of those checks would be valid for 6 and more months. At a minimum 6 months and more. So there is no need to think that the checks are not valid or will not be valid beyond 3 days, as I saw some lunatic saying on the social media. I want to speak briefly also on the developments which have taken place recently in our exclusive economic zone. As you know, there is no dispute about our exclusive economic zone, and there is no dispute that the licensees who are operating in the oil and gas sector are within the exclusive economic zone of Guyana. There is also no dispute that in the judgments, 2 rulings handed down by the ICJ thus far, in 2 rulings, the jurisdictional one and the interim measures ruling, the ICJ made it clear that Guyana will continue to occupy the lands and the areas that we have had administrative control over the last 100 years until the hearing and determination of the case. That is undisputed as well. It is undisputed that the interim measures granted by the ICJ preserved the status quo. What that means is that Venezuela must stay where it is and Guyana must stay where it is. And both parties were restrained from taking any steps that would escalate tensions until the hearing and determination of the case. The Argyle Agreement that was signed by both sides was intended to achieve that same objective. In violation of all of that, we saw the incursion which you all witnessed. And the president led from the front, and Guyana took charge of the situation, and you have seen the response. I don't need to reiterate our response. led by His Excellency the President, Guyana responded with appropriately worded statements. We responded by our military presence. We responded by calling together our legal team and receiving advice from them and giving them certain instructions. We activated all of the mechanisms available to us in the region and beyond. We solicited the support and received statements of support from the CARICOM region, from the OAS, from the US government, from the Commonwealth, from many countries in Europe, and many other friendly countries and organizations. The situation is continuously being monitored, and we have to be vigilant to ensure that further incursions are not made. This significantly, the President, very early upon learning of the disturbing news, made contact with the leader of the opposition and briefed him, and then requested an in-person meeting with him, which meeting took place. I saw the wild fringes in the opposition camp making, as expected, irresponsible and reckless statements. There are certain times, and there will always be certain matters when they arise. They must not be contaminated and polluted by any other issue than the issues themselves. And the sovereignty of our country, our national security, our territorial integrity are paramount among those issues, that when they arise, they require our unadulterated, unreserved, and undiluted attention. Some fringe elements in this country, some of them are located in the opposition camp and some elsewhere, do not understand that fundamental principle. So this matter of fundamental national importance have arisen, and some of these fringe elements are on the Facebook and they are critical of the opposition leader for attending the meeting with the president on this matter. One of them, who happens to be a member of parliament and who says nothing sensible either on the Facebook or in parliament, and you don't have to second guess me, you can go and look at him. I speak of Sherrod Duncan. He is critical of the opposition leader meeting with the president. In his little mind, we have not recovered yet. He has not recovered yet from the error that occurred, which resulted in the opposition leader and the opposition parliamentarians being not invited to Republic Night's ceremony. That was an error for which there was a public apology. It happened when they were in government as well. We were invited to Durban Park and we were not given any chairs to sit when they celebrated the 50th anniversary, and we left. They never apologized for whatever the reason, and I don't want to get involved in why the invitations were not sent out. But we heard that the invitations were not sent out by an error made by someone, and there was a public apology. Duncan can't get that out of his mind. So because of that, the leader of the opposition must not meet with the president on the important issue of our national sovereignty, on the important issue of Venezuela violating our exclusive economic zone. The leader of the opposition, according to this person, must not meet with the president until this little thing that he got, this non-invite, is addressed. It is these moments when you know that these fellas are not fit to be where they are in Parliament. They are not fit. They are not qualified. They are not competent. They are not mature enough to represent the people of this country at that forum. And then you have Lincoln Lewis, who has lived most of his life already, but is bent on spending the remainder of his life to cause discord and problems in this country. Lincoln Lewis got to be about 80 years old. But he wants to disrupt the life of Guyanese, young Guyanese. He has lived his life. He have lived his life, or most of it. Young Guyanese who have a future and see their country developing, he doesn't want those Guyanese to carve a path of their own. He wants to influence them, maybe to end up like him. At 80, he has achieved nothing. I don't know what he set out to do in life. He has not achieved it, at least not with any great success. But he writes a letter in the newspapers to condemn the leader of the opposition, because according to him, the leader of the opposition did not use this occasion to extract some undertakings and conditionalities from the president before agreeing to meet. Lincoln Lewis feels that when the president issued the invite to Aubrey Norton to discuss this matter, Aubrey Norton should have said, no. We have biometrics to deal with. We have, and whatever. Let us find a position on these matters before we meet on this Venezuela possible invasion issue. Lincoln Lewis et al. And persons of his ilk, I don't know whatever use they may have served in the Guyanese society, but they are demonstrating to you that they have no place anymore in a modern society. This guy would like the leader of the opposition to grandstand and play politics on this matter, on this issue that goes to the root of our country, or two-thirds of it. In fact, when you look at what is being asserted by Venezuela, we really don't have any exclusive economic zone left. If what they are saying, if where they are saying those operators are in their economic zone, then we don't have anything left. Because that is not even north of Venezuela. Those assets are way out north of Berbice. And that is what these people are saying, is their economic zone. Do you understand the magnitude and gravity of this issue? And you have these persons, Lincoln Lewis and Shara Duncan, who can't appreciate mentally. They don't have the presence of mind. They don't have the maturity. They don't have the intellect to appreciate the magnitude of this occasion. So they are cussing out the opposition leader, that he should have been extracting favors from the president and hold the president to answer for things about why an invitation was not sent out that night on the 22nd of February. That is the mentality of that guy, Shara Duncan. And the other one said the President Norton should demand from the President his position on biometrics before he attended the meeting. These guys are demonstrating to you. You don't have to accept what I'm saying. You assess for yourself. You're intelligent people listening to me. And you make your own assessment of the value of these people in a modern Guyana. What value do they have? What positive role can they play? None. None. So please share the program. Press that share button. Share the live. Let me read your comments. Let me read your messages. Let me see your questions so that we can engage. Somebody described them as fossilized, dilapidated, visionless, geriatric, outdated bunch. That's quite an articulate expression. A lot of adjectival flexibility there. So please, let's get your program, your questions, sorry, so that we can continue this course. The issue of local authorities selling state lands has once again arisen. We have made it clear already that any local authority that sells state lands, those who are the authors of that sale in that local authority will have to face the full force of the law. Residents of the Buxton Falls NDC have reported that the chairperson of the Buxton Falls NDC is renting or selling state lands. A report has been made to the Guyana Police Force, and hopefully an investigation will be commenced. This issue, these are elected officials for an NDC. How can they be empowered to dispose of state lands? The custodian of state lands is the president. The president of Guyana has never, the constitution and the laws of Guyana has not given it to any other person other than the president. And there's a reason for that. So, I am hoping that the Guyana Police Force will move swiftly, and we can use this to set an example. Because I have seen the documents signed by the chairman and by the persons who are buying or leasing these lands. So the evidence is there. And I hope that the police will act quickly and address this matter. I see a view being peddled in the public domain and on social media that the recent promotions in the Guyana Police Force recommended by the Police Service Commission are unlawful. I want to reject that view absolutely. It is wrong. It is born out of ignorance, and it should be ignored. Those who are making that assertion are predicating it upon a decision of Chief Justice Roxanne George in a case decided 2 years ago. It was a case filed by leader of the opposition, Aubrey Norton, which Aubrey Norton lost, by the way. But in the course of her ruling, the Chief Justice pronounced that the Police Service Commission at the time was not properly constituted because it did not have all the members from the beginning. So there was never a commission in the first place. The Chief Justice ruling was based upon Her Honor's interpretation of the Constitution, which essentially says that there shall be a Police Service Commission which shall consist of the chairman of the Public Service Commission and the other persons who constitute the commission. At the time when that commission was sworn in, there was no Public Service Commission chairman appointed. So the Police Service Commission, according to the Chief Justice, was never properly constituted. The Chief Justice drew a distinction in her ruling between such a situation and a situation where you have a full Police Service Commission, meaning all the members are there, but during the course of its tenure, one resigns or one dies or there is a vacancy. In that case, a singular vacancy once there is a quorum will not affect the lawfulness or the composition or the legality of the commission. Those who are saying that the commission is not properly constituted now are saying that because Mr. What's his name? He died. Oh, I can't remember his name, the lawyer. Because he died, a vacancy is created, and that vacancy renders the entire commission unlawful. They are asserting that that is the ruling of the Chief Justice. That is not the ruling of the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice ruled that when you have to have the entire commission sworn in at the same time. If one is missing from the beginning, well, then there was never a commission in the first place. And that is what happened in the matter that the Chief Justice ruled in. That is not the position here. The position here, you had a full commission and one member died. So you have a vacancy. And the Constitution is very clear. The commission can perform its functions notwithstanding that vacancy. These subtle principles are lost on these who want to be the maker and shaper of public opinion and are pronouncing grandly and boldly on matters over which they have no competence whatsoever. So to draw attention to themselves, to put themselves in the news, they make the bold assertion that the Police Service Commission is unlawful, and therefore all the recommendations coming from the Commission for promotion of police officers are unlawful. And this has to do with law, and none of them are lawyers. But they fancy themselves qualified to make statements in an area that they have no competence. But that is the society in which we live. Everybody wants to be a lawyer. You don't have to go to law school now. Everybody pronouncing. I fear the day where people would not want to be doctors. Whether you're trained or not, I want to treat people because we're going to have a lot of casualties. If I am to compare the number of people who are giving legal expert advice on the social media, if that is to translate into medicine, we're going to have a serious problem. So, and anyone can go and read the Chief Justice ruling. I can make it, it's a very long case, but I can make the relevant pages of Her Honor's ruling available. But I hope that, and journalists are free to quote, to read what the Chief Justice said, and to understand it for yourself. And you can also seek legal guidance if you wish. Yeah, I see somebody calling them bush lawyers and all kind of things. Yeah, you have a lot of that. I mean, I don't like to lambaste people, but every day somebody would forward these things to me as Attorney General and would request clarifications. And I don't have the time, the energy, nor the inclination to deal with every accusation or every assertion born out of absolute ignorance. If I have to do that, then I can't do anything else in life. As soon as you go on the social media, you are bombarded with inaccurate legal assertions being made by including lawyers. including lawyers. So a lot of people have asked me to comment on what is going on in the PNC. And I really don't know what to say. Vanessa Kissoon has resigned, and I don't know whether PNC is better off or worse off with Vanessa Kissoon. I don't know what value Vanessa Kissoon brought to the PNC. In my view, if I'm to express a view, I don't see any, but then I'm not qualified to express a view. I see Amna Ali has decided to resign after 50 years, and Amna Ali would have made a contribution. I have no doubt about that. I sat in Parliament for several years with Amna Ali on the other side, and no doubt she has made a contribution. But she has resigned. But then I remember on election day 2020, in the compound of Monrepo's primary school, where Amna Ali, straight to my face, accused me of sharing out ID cards. All of you can remember that. The woman boldly accused me of sharing out ID cards, something that I was shocked, because I went to the school to deal with a particular incident. And when I went there, they had a camera ready, and the whole thing was staged with Basil Williams. And they accused me of sharing out ID cards. You see how they end up? Where is Basil Williams? He's completely off the radar. Amna Ali is gone. You see, when you try to pull other people down innocently, where is Basil Williams? Where is Amna Ali? And these were persons who were trying to, I don't know, I guess destroy me, attack me, frame me. They had another one named Crummy Wing, used to protest in front of my office for a whole month or month and a half, and then 2 months I didn't see him back. And then he was shot and killed. And they said that I was responsible. Why would I go and look for this Crummy Wing? What? The man had stopped protesting in front of the ministry. I had forgotten everything about Crummy Wing until one of them may have shot him and then tried to frame me. Anyhow, so you see how they, one by one, so I am still looking at your comments. I'm trying to read some of them, to answer some of them. Ask any questions that you wish. Some of you are asking me about the election cases. Well, as you would have observed, the election cases have begun. The trials have begun before a new magistrate. And the tactics of delay continue from the Defense Council. They are, based upon the reports I have read in the press, they are bombarding the witnesses with questions after questions, objections after objections. But I guess that's their game plan. They don't want the evidence to unfold. And then I'm told they're asking for the CV of a witness. I have never heard the CV of a witness being relevant when the witness is not giving evidence about her particular competence. It's only an expert witness you will want the CV for. This is a witness who witnessed an event. Imagine you witness a crime and you are called upon to give evidence of what you saw, and the defense counsel asking you for your CV. Imagine you standing on the road and you see a road accident, or you see a wounding incident, or you see a murder. Someone killed someone, and you are to testify in the court. And when you turn up in the court and you start to give your evidence, the defense counsel start to cross-examine you. You are only speaking about what you saw. The defense counsel wants to see your CV. And guess who's the defense counsel asking for the CV? Nigel Hughes. And before I close the program, as I am on Mr. Hughes, who wants the witness's CV. That's what I read in the newspapers. I was shocked. I don't know what is the relevance of the witness's CV. And I've given you 3 examples of you being a potential witness. And when you go to tell the court what you saw, the lawyer on the other side, the defense counsel, wants to see your CV. Whether you're an accountant or whether you're... Does it matter? If you're an accountant, it means that you can't see. Does it matter that you are not an accountant? Does it matter that you're an engineer? Does it matter that you're not an engineer? All you are there to do is to tell the court what you saw and what you observed with your own senses. But since we are on Nigel Hughes, you would have read or heard, and I guess you would have been in the same state of shock that I was when I heard and read what he said about his wife's conduct. This guy is special. He is special, and I don't know why I am surprised. And I will have to dedicate some time on every program to deal specially with him, because every week you can do a program on him. The allegation out there, not the allegation, it is a fact that when his wife, Kathy Hughes, was a minister, she gave contracts, advertising contracts, to her advertising company, a company that she had owned before she became a minister. You will also know that the issue was in the public domain even before, and she was asked about it, because this was a long ongoing thing. She was asked about it, and I'm told that internally she was instructed to sever all ties with the company. She made a press statement, or at a press interview, she said that she no longer runs the advertising company. And the company, because the company was getting business from her, she said she has no interest in that company anymore. So she continued, the ministry continues to give the company business. And then lo and behold, a check turns up during the same period that she says that she has severed relations with that company. A check turns up in that company's name, written from that company's account and signed by her. So she was doing business, running the affairs of that company, paying for expenses of that company at the time when she told the press that she had nothing to do with that company. In short, she was giving business to her own company. Her ministry was giving business to her own company in private. Now, these things, they are wrong, but I personally would not make an issue of it if these persons would behave differently. These are persons who want to lecture the Guyanese people, and lecture me, and lecture us in the parliament about decency, about professionalism, about integrity. These are the persons who are delivering these lectures. And when Mr. Hughes was confronted with this allegation last week or the week before, he said that there is nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. But that's the gentleman there for you. Nothing wrong with a minister giving herself contracts from her own ministry. The same thing they did with Site Global. He was the company secretary for Site Global. The PR work for the company was being done by Cathy Hughes' company. And Cathy Hughes was in the AFC when they were cussing down the very Site Global for getting the Amaila Falls project. Do you remember that? Nigel Hughes was the company secretary. Nobody knew that. And every day they were critical until somebody disclosed that the company secretary of the very Site Global and the AFC was criticizing every day was Nigel Hughes, the then chairman of the AFC. And the company that was hired and paid by Site Global to do their PR work was Cathy Hughes' company. How can these people have no? I don't understand. Same thing you have now. The man is Exxon lawyer, and he wants to be president. These people have no rules, no regulations. They don't respect conflict of interest canons. I don't understand. I don't understand. It will take another entire program to deal with these conflicts. And Mr. Hughes tells the press of Guyana that nothing is wrong with a minister gifting herself contracts from her ministry. And then he will put on his Facebook page that better must come. This guy would lecture to you about decency and about accountability. And when he or his wife are caught with their pants down, nothing is wrong with that. Well, that is where I have to say goodbye. We have come to the end of the program. I want to thank you very much for being with me for the past hour or so. Join me next week as we continue our discussion on issues in the news. Take care. May God bless you. Enjoy the rest of the evening and the rest of the week. Thank you.